The world of sports affects our society every day. The popularity of athletes today create and influence the youth of tomorrow. But what would this be like without fans? Empty seats, empty contracts, and empty fields. Brilliant and unwavering, yet still crazy, fans are what make the sports world go round.
And is trying to get down to the bench. Artesta's in the stands. Oh, this is awful. Fans are getting involved. Steven Jackson's in the fans.
He scored. And that ball is absolutely scorched to left. Three-run shot.
Ever since there were sports teams, there have been fans there to watch and support their team through both the good and the bad. But what makes these fans so dedicated to their teams? Why do we cheer for these teams, and what are the origins of their fandom? To better answer these questions, we're taking a look at one of the biggest and craziest fan bases in the world, the Bills Mafia. Despite their supportive fan base, the Bills have endured a long streak of losing seasons. One of the most iconic series of losses refers back to the 4 consecutive Super Bowl losses from 1990 to 1993. The Bills Mafia is famous for being one of the most energetic fan bases in the world, which draws the question as to why so many fans are devoted to a team with a less than stellar record. To see why these fans throw themselves through tables, light themselves on fire, and most importantly, still keep faith in their team, we went to the place where they watch the games to get a sense of how the origin of their fanship continues to affect them today.
The passion for the Bills started for me probably in the womb of my mom. It's just because I was born and raised out there. It's just one of those things that was inbred, just brought into me.
I do this every week because I love this place here. I'm always going to be loyal to this location here, and it's just, I've become friends with every last one of the fans here for the past 12 years, so this has been my extended family now.
My name is John Curran, and I'm a lifelong fan of the Bills. I grew up in Buffalo, and I have been a lifelong fan. My dad brought me into the Bills, and I've been a Bills fan since I was like 5 years old. I remember watching Bills games just as a kid in the living room with my dad, and just having a great time. I would go back, I'm old, so I would go back to probably O.J. Simpson and Curtis Brown, who is also a running back.
My dad grew up in Buffalo, and he made his only 2 girls Buffalo Bills fans. My family and I would watch him every Sunday, and now my sister and I live here in Dallas, and we watch them together every weekend.
I grew up in central New York, and a few hours, probably 3 hours from Buffalo, and we always would get Bills games on TV.
This is the CBS Sunday Night News. Bill Plant reporting, good evening. Super Bowl 28 ended tonight in Atlanta as a football tragic comedy, with the Dallas Cowboys rallying to beat the Buffalo Bills 30-13. The Bills return home as the only American pro team in any sport to lose the championship showdown 4 consecutive times.
My earliest memory as a Bills fan is going to be a very sad one.
We wait. There's a snap. There's a kick. It is up. It is no good. No one missed.
It was the 4 straight Super Bowl losses. Games were obviously on Sunday night, school the next morning, so I would usually be allowed to stay until about halftime. And my mom would then send me to bed, and I would wake up in the morning to a yellow sticky note at my spot on the dining room kitchen table. And it would always say, Bills score, Cowboys score, Redskins score, whatever it is. And always the other team would have more points than the Bills.
I think it all started listening to my dad yell at the TV on Sunday afternoons. I can remember him screaming, "Not another interception." It was Joe Ferguson. And I think my grandfather also had a big part in this, because we would go after a Bills loss to the house up in Lewiston, New York. And I remember him sipping on a Labatt's going, "Are we ever going to win the Super Bowl?" And I think that instilled with me a sense of the Bills are part of my family, and I have to like them even if they lose, because we're never going to stop loving the Bills. It's a part of our family.
We are a dedicated bunch. We have been fans through all the hard years. Everywhere I go, and I've been to other cities. I just was up in Boston. I'm going down to Houston, and there's Bills fans everywhere. And it's like when you get in there, it's like family. I think I would tell you, as far as being a Bills fan and the value, it's just the camaraderie that I have with all of the people.
Now that I live in Fort Worth and Dallas, people don't understand. I feel like they don't have the loyalty that we have, because we are blue collar and we know what hard work is all about. We just really love our team. And I think other people love their team too, but we've been through a lot, as everybody knows, the 4 Super Bowls not winning, the miracle, the Nashville Music City miracle, all the bad stuff that's happened, everybody knows, but we're still loyal. We still love our team. I don't know that everybody would go through all that and still be like, oh yeah, I'm still a Bills fan.
I think the reason I've stayed so involved is because of the fans. I think the fan base is the reason that the team the fan base is the reason that I've remained so loyal. I mean, you look around, you can come in here, they're 4-1 right now, and you can come in here in 3 weeks and we could be 4-4 and you're still gonna have the same crowd. And that's the one thing that's really unique, is that we've been terrible for 10, 15, 20 years, and the fan base has remained loyal, and hopefully we're rewarded for that at some point.
Here's Manuel with a fade and wide open. Touchdown to Stevie Johnson.
After hearing all these stories of the devoted Bills fans, it is clear to see that everyone has a unique experience that has brought them together to be a fan of their team. Whether it's geographical, family-based, through friendships, or a special moment, there are many different types of factors that play into the development of one's passion for their team. No matter what your origin of fanship may be, it is clear to see that loyalty is an extremely valued trait when it comes to supporting the team. Loyalty through thick and thin is what bonds fans together and makes fanship seem like family. Fans come from all over. Different backgrounds, different places, a fan becomes a fan in a unique way. But not every fan is the same as the one screaming and yelling right next to them. These are the different types of fans. The majority of fans enjoy a sport and cheer on a team, but they may be pretty laid back about it. A die-hard fan takes their loyalty and fanship to the next level.
I'm a die-hard Atlanta United fan.
The die-hard fan will let everybody know that they are a fan and will always be a fan.
I love repping them all the time, doing everything I can for them. It's Major League Soccer, so it's not as big to a lot of people, but I'm trying to do the best that I can to try to change that. I mean, I'm as big of a fan as they come with this. I do everything I can with the team. I got really into a lot of it with my dad. I mean, he lived in Brazil back a few decades ago, and he went to some big games back in the Maracanã and Rio. And I've become a really big diehard fan through him a lot, and he's been sort of there with me through a lot of things. And I go in the middle of the supporter section every time where we have big flag waving throughout the game, screaming chants as usual, throwing beer showers everywhere during, during any kind of a goal. I mean, it's just an absolute extravaganza of an insane time in there, and that's usually my preferred spot.
Sure, diehard fans love to see their teams win. But other fans of winning teams are not always classified as diehard fans, especially if they have no concrete connection with them. For the fans that jump on board because of the wins, we have a special name for them.
My name is Michael White, senior from Omaha, Nebraska. So my favorite pro teams are going to be the New York Yankees, Golden State Warriors. I really only follow baseball, basketball, and then I guess football. I like the Patriots too. So.
My name is Riley Cudell. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I'm a New England Patriots fan.
I like to win, and so we don't have anyone that we have like an allegiance to in Nebraska, so I kind of just chose the teams that were always winning.
And naturally, I was really attracted to a team like the Patriots because they have such a successful track record, and I mean, who doesn't love Gronk and Tom Brady?
There are even superfans of individual players, the ones who are so devoted to some of their favorite star athletes.
Guys, my name is Danny Morales. I'm from Mansfield, Texas, and I am a fan of Lionel Messi and Barcelona. I'm lucky to be a fan of Messi because I think they both go hand in hand. I don't think Messi will ever play for another team. I think he'll retire there. And then Barcelona just, I guess, just represents everything, or Messi just represents everything Barcelona wants to as a club. So I think that's a pretty cool little thing we got there.
Fans of players devote their loyalty to the players they follow and are unique in the reasons why they follow their favorite players.
And those who know, they know. Messi is the GOAT.
There are many devoted fans that enjoy the game itself. However, some fans also enjoy the opportunities that they create.
My name is Trent Attia, and I'm a student here at TCU, and I'm the founder and CEO of a new emerging sports betting social media app called Book It. I noticed that my friends were hopping from Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to consume, this type of content. And that's when it clicked for me that when my friends were making separate Twitter and Instagram accounts, that there needs to be a niche platform for this community. But as a sports fan, it's made me a lot more just excited about any sporting event, whether it doesn't have to be my favorite team. I could tune into, a mid-season baseball game and watch the full thing and not even really care about either team, but if I have money on the game, I'm obviously going to stick around.
Sports betting and fantasy sports together are worth about $10 billion per year in the U.S. Fantasy sports and gambling allow fans to have stake in each game. Though they don't affect the game itself, the game can affect them in the way that they experience sports.
It's like the feeling that the thought of like losing money is like scary, but the thought of winning money is even more exhilarating in my opinion. So I feel like you get, even just winning a fantasy game, you get bragging rights over your friends too, and then you're like, I beat you, like you can't talk any expletive to me this week. So I think I pay attention to the league as a whole more, because I need to know who's performing well, who's getting the ball on certain teams, or who's shooting in basketball.
Though there is a price of being this type of fan, sports bettors often continue to place these bets and participate in fantasy sports.
A rough estimate, I would say through fantasy sports, I've made a few $100s in my life, and through sports betting, I've probably lost a couple hundred.
Basically, during the week, kind of I'll see some games that I like, or parlay some games that I like. Bet like $5-10 on a game, like a couple times a week, and then parlay that. So I'm looking at like a $5 parlay to like a $40 payout type of deal. I'm not spending a lot of money doing that. And if I go way down in the hole, which doesn't happen often, I usually quit for some amount of time.
This type of fan is the fastest growing type of fan, with a bright future ahead of the fantasy sports and sports betting community.
Cutting, shooting, go! Bravo! To the U.S. This is caught! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
A fan is more than just a fan. Every single fan is special and unique in their own way.
Let's go, Kobe. We're in the lab. It's like 9:45.
Fans come from all over, from different backgrounds, different places. A fan becomes a fan in a unique way.
You put this
But
together.
not every fan is the same as the one screaming and yelling right next to them. These are the different types of fans. Sports fans are wired to cling to others to feel a sense of belonging. A traditional part of having a close-knit fan base is teaming up against a common enemy, more known as a rival. Perhaps one of the most iconic and storied rivalries of all time is that of the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox.
So the Yankees and the Red Sox, in the beginning, really didn't have that much of a rivalry, although Babe Ruth was traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees.
Our owner gets in some financial difficulty, including our beloved Fenway Park doesn't actually have a mortgage on it. So for the cost of the mortgage and Babe Ruth, we lose Ruth to the Yankees. And nobody at that point knew who Babe Ruth was going to be.
It was a rivalry in a lot of Red Sox fans, but it wasn't really a rivalry as far as Yankee fans were concerned, because they weren't. The Cleveland Indians were more of a rival.
The Yankees go through what, for us, ended up being 86 years of long history.
The rivalry didn't start to take place until the 40s, when Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio were playing for the Red Sox or the Yankees.
When DiMaggio played for the Yankees, Ted Williams, the greatest hitter ever, played for the Red Sox, and the Red Sox couldn't get it done.
The Yankees are the most successful team in the history of baseball, with 27 World Series titles. The Red Sox, on the other hand, they still have some catching up to do.
The Yankees are champions gods of baseball. Just fittingly with a throw, and the Yankees have done it again. Curtis makes the catch. Ball game over.
These two teams met in the ALCS in 2004 when the Yankees took a 3-0 series lead.
And we went down 0-3 in 04, and it was bad. They had beaten us by 15 runs in Game 3.
Then the Red Sox did the unthinkable. They won the next 4 games in a row to advance to the World Series, becoming the first team in sports history to win a 7-game series after losing the first 3.
Unless my child grows up to become a professional athlete, without question, the greatest sports moment of my life was the ALCS in 2004.
The Red Sox would then go on to win the 2004 World Series. Though the Yankees lead the overall World Series race by a large amount, the Red Sox have had more recent success with title wins in 2013 and 2018. The rising competitiveness from both these teams have led this rivalry to become almost out of control.
And we know what he said. Here we go. Veritek and A-Rod going at it. The third, nobody out. And that's why he gets drilled here, and he slams the bat. Now he's making a move, and here he comes on the run, and now fisticuffs.
Yankee fans, I mean, it's the evil empire. I mean, what are you going to say? It's like putting a stormtrooper on your t-shirt and putting it on your kids. You don't do that.
Pure hatred. Absolutely pure hatred.
No. Nothing. I have nothing to say good about them.
My daughter goes to school in Boston. That's the only thing I can say good about the Red Sox. No, there's nothing good about the Red Sox. Their uniforms suck. Their fans are terrible.
Have you seen one in your lifetime, right? And they've seen, I think it's one, right? In 2009? 2009, right? I've seen 4 between 04, 07, 13, and 18 most recently. So, like, that's the thing that I like to point out.
The Yankees are the best. I mean, 27 World Championships, you can't beat it.
Right. Are Boston fans better than Yankees fans? Oh, without question.
Idea of how much I hate New York. I'm 21 years old. The first time that I went to New York was this summer. And the only reason why I went was because I was getting brought out to the New York Stock Exchange.
I've never been to Fenway Park, and I'm a giant baseball fan. And people will say, how could you not gone to Fenway Park? You've been to all these other ballparks, Wrigley Field. And I said, I couldn't stomach being in Fenway Park.
They like to try to be like Boston, but they really can't ever measure up. So they're like Boston's little brother. They're always trying to like hold the hand of Boston's fan base, but they can never do it. So then they just get angry and say that we suck at everything. But we don't, because we have so many championships.
Rivalry games mean more than everyday games. The atmosphere is crazier, the fans care more, and the passion reaches an all-time high.
So we went to Fenway in Boston. It got pretty hostile pretty fast because a couple of my buddies are Red Sox fans, and we just started screaming at each other, and different people in the stands started screaming at each other. I think at one point my buddy grabs his clam chowder and dumps it on my other friend's head.
We sat right next to the bleachers, so in Yankee Stadium there's the bleacher creatures and they are insane. And a couple Red Sox fans were sitting in the bleachers and they were getting stuff thrown at them, and some guy got barbecue sauce all over his jersey and the cops had to come and like take him out.
If you ever consider a baseball game to be boring by just like sitting there and just watching and going through the motions and not really doing much, a Red Sox-Yankees baseball game is essentially like a UFC fight.
At Yankee Stadium, 3-game series, Red Sox-Yankees. Yankees were chasing the Red Sox in late August. The Yankees won the game in, I think it was Chris Chambliss hit a home run in the 9th inning to win the game. And Yankee fans outside the Yankee Stadium buying the Red Sox replica batting helmets, plastic batting helmets, one after another, and just crushing them on the ground.
The Red Sox and Yankees rivalry encompasses everything a great rivalry has. The intensity of this rivalry and the passion of these fans show the importance of rivalries across baseball and ultimately across all sports.
I feel like the rivalry is just going to get better because we both have like such young cores and it's going to be like going on for such a long time.
It really does take over this whole like New York versus Boston just animal, and it's something fun to be a part of.
Baseball's America's pastime, right? And I don't think anyone can think of a more historic rivalry than Yankees-Red Sox.
To have any rivalry in sports makes the game great, and it brings other fans in from other teams to know that this is one of the biggest rivalries in sports.
So I think that intensity makes it fun, right? I mean, that's what makes the sport fun for everyone.
You're not going to find two better examples of two people that, you know, love their teams. Like, you're either a diehard Yankees fan and you just grow up hating the Red Sox, or you're a diehard Red Sox fan and you grow up hating the Yankees.
A full fan experience wouldn't be complete without the competitiveness of rivalries. For some fans, as long as they beat their rival, they don't really care what happens the rest of the season. Rivalries bring a passion, intensity, and fire to the sports world that other games just can't create.
That's nothing to sneeze at, Dale Jr.
Big Rick. Lean into it, my friend.
That's right.
I shaved. I don't know if my mustache will make it in or not. I don't know if I recorded. Did I? We'll do pictures. We will. Wait, Kobe, did I show you my braces?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, because they're clear. My braces hurt. It's kind of cool. This is the real star right here, though. Editing machine.
Sports and religion are one and the same. On Sundays, masses fill the stadiums and arenas, while fans of Jesus are crowding into the pews.
In New Orleans, a lot of the churches have like TVs, so that if church goes a little bit over the time it's supposed to go, you can like stay a while to like halftime and watch the game. That's how influential like football is in New Orleans. Like, the pastor knows that if everybody not in the congregation, they somewhere watching the Saints game. So they might as well be in the church. So you have TVs in the church.
A pilgrimage is going to a sacred ground. So many of my fellow cheeseheads think of going to Lambeau Field as a pilgrimage. I got to step into Lambeau Field, which many fans would think of as sacred or hallowed ground. There's Notre Dame, they have Touchdown Jesus.
Touchdown Jesus is actually a library inside for Father Ted Hesburgh, which was a very influential civil rights and spiritual priest that worked with Notre Dame. So you have an academic part, but nobody goes there for that. But there is a reflection pool in front of Touchdown Jesus. So despite the fact that people go there as a superstition, like, I'll always pray to Touchdown Jesus that we score and that we win. Like, people go there for superstitions, but it really is a reverent area. So it's peaceful and quiet, but everybody knows the real reason you're there is praying for a win.
The Predator Stadium has a large radio tower attached to the stadium that kind of looks like a spire on a church. And then you have the people, they all filter in through the same front entrance and they all filter out through the same exit. So it's very religious seeming if you were an outsider and didn't know any better.
From holy churches to sacred fields, fans are practicing their own religion. Ritual and traditions are passed down year after year. They can seem even cult-like, but that's exactly what keeps them alive.
It's absolutely a cult, obviously. Next question. But seriously, no, it's definitely a cult, absolutely. And we love it that way. There's so many traditions tied to every single building, every single icon you see, from campus buildings that are haunted to traditions that have to do with who you're gonna marry.
They have little chants that they'll do during kickoffs and at the start of each quarter, so their band will play certain songs and they'll have traditions like that. My favorite is, though, when you score a touchdown, they do push-ups. So the male cheerleaders will run in the middle of the field and do however many push-ups they have for the total amount of points they have. Or fans will actually lift their student section up and do push-ups like in the stands.
The catfish that they throw on the ice started in the early 2000s when they were playing Detroit, and it's a direct copy of the octopus that Detroit throws, but it's continued on ever since, to the point where in recent playoffs there's been so many catfish thrown on the ice that the NHL and the coaches and the players have had to ask the fans to not throw as many or to officially stop throwing them.
Catfish number 5, I think, on the ice.
Yeah, Matt Collin just looked down as he saw something towards, and another catfish finds its way.
We don't have cheerleaders, we have yell leaders because we don't need cheerleaders because the entire student section is the cheerleaders, is what we say. And so we don't do cheers, we do yells. Again, because we're not in high school. You kiss your boyfriend on every touchdown.
Each team has its own traditions, but fans themselves stick to their certain game day rituals as if it's a holy doctrine.
I like to get there about 2 hours before, go and get some drinks, bite to eat, and then show up about 5 minutes before warm-up ends.
If the game's on campus, we're typically about 6 hours early because despite the fact that campus has never changed, we walk it again every time. So you see the player walk and you go see the Basilica and all the sorts of things that Notre Dame fans do on a daily basis. We'll go do it all over again, even though I've done it since I was 2.
Some fans go beyond these game day rules. Some are superstitious.
We would have all kinds of superstitions. I mean, there's, the way you sit. So if somebody's sitting in one particular place and then they get up and the team starts doing badly, we tell them to sit down. I don't believe in it, but I still do it.
Game day. So this is where the superstition comes in. I have to do the same thing each game day. I have to eat food before. I have to sit in my same spot in bed since I've been here. But if I'm at home, I have my spot on the sofa back home where me and my mom are all sitting our same spots all the time. I don't wear Saints gear during the game, not at all, because I wore it once. I used to wear it before, but one time I wore it and we lost. I was like, so I'm not doing this, and I stopped wearing it. So now I just wear my PJs to watch the game. I am very superstitious when it comes to football. If I do one thing wrong, the whole thing is knocked off.
Superstitions are simply that. They're interesting and they're fun, but they don't work. Even so, people still do them.
When superstitions don't work, fans will pray.
There's been multiple games where I'm watching the Predators on TV and I'm sitting there leaning forward a little bit in my chair just waiting for them to score a goal.
Yes, I do pray for miracles.
The 1980 Miracle on Ice where the U.S. played Russia in the Olympics.
What we say is a miracle like that is not a miracle. It's a very, very unlikely circumstance.
Fans are superstitious, pray for miracles, and worship their favorite players, just like fans of Jesus. They do this for the love of their team and their community.
You're part of a social group, and a lot of scholars who study religion talk about kind of the social function of religion. You can say the same thing about sports.
My family are huge Saints fans, not everybody, but for the most part, we're diehard every Sunday in front of the TV. My dad was actually on the Saints practice team before he died, so that's another big reason. And they were a big part of paying for his funeral, and they also donated a lot of money to me and my brother after. During Katrina, the Superdome served as a shelter. Many people stayed in there, many people were sick and died because of the stuff that was in the water and stuff they went through. So honestly, if I was to say, I believe those spirits are with us during each game day. And most people say that's kind of what helped Gleason have that that punt block. That was those spirits coming up and just we home, this is our home, we're not going nowhere. Katrina ain't stopping us, this is us. When you in the dome, you feel that.
Religion gives the world meaning and a purpose. There's no coincidence that sports do the same. Fans have rituals, traditions, beliefs, and a strong community that keeps their own religion alive.
All-star editor, Kobe. He's beast moving right now. Look at that. Way too hard. It never stops.
So Ben is currently trying to book the Blue Ballroom for when we screen our sports documentary. So it's pretty exciting. He's over there working hard. So we'll see what happens.
The last 2 years, 16 of 16 in the fourth quarter on field goals, 32 yards to tie.
Sports. Games played by the greatest athletes in the world. Years of training, a mental and physical toll on their body that they carry for the rest of their lives. They become celebrities that are larger than life. But what if I told you that they are not the ones that took the games they play the most serious? We live in a time where the fans take losses harder than some of the athletes playing in the game. Whether it's fantasy football,
No, you know what? Don't you dare troll us. Screw you.
gambling,
Your source, me, likes hard.
or having a family member involved, we see the average Joe invest more time into a football Sunday than he does during the work week. Is it weird? Maybe. But when you risk $250,000 on 18-year-olds playing basketball, you might put the same effort in. Not everyone is fans of sports for the same reason. No matter what the reason is though, people around the world continue to put their attention and emotions into sports. This is Chapter 5, The Cost of Fandom.
There's people that are like diehard fans and will identify themselves with a group like really heavily, and like they place like a lot of emphasis on their team winning, and so they will their team identify so hard that like their team's wins will feel like they're winning, or like that they did something to like make their team win.
My name is Jason Nugget, I'm a diehard football fan.
Some fans bleed their own colors because that's how they were raised, not because they have any money on the game. When I say bleed their team's color, I mean literally bleed sometimes.
I think I've been to over 50 TCU football games in my lifetime. Football in general has brought my family together at home. The Duncan family, that's something we always did together. We did football, and that's how we spent a lot of time together. And at TCU, that's definitely how I met a lot of people freshman year, was just talking about football.
Certain sports fans don't care if they're watching amateur or professional. They invest their time because it's something that they love to do. It's a time of either great triumph or peace, but either way, they'll be along for the ride no matter what it costs.
Anytime I can watch live football, I'm going to do it, no matter how much it costs me or where it is. I'm going to drive to get there. My younger brother was playing football his junior and senior year when I was a freshman and sophomore at TCU. I'd go down 5-6 times a season and drive down to Austin to watch him play, then drive back up the same night to watch TCU play the next day. It was a lot of time on the road.
Like what you get from being identified or identifying yourself with a team is like it kind of fulfills basic human needs, like a sense of belonging, a sense of distinctiveness, and a sense of meaning in life. So it like gives you something to look forward to. You feel belonging with like your group of people, like a fandom. And then with gambling, it's more like you're doing it for like the rush and like the risk of losing money.
I'm Mickey Bollinger, and I'm an avid sports gambler.
Low scoring game here. Under.
This century, 3-16 against the spread.
Move the 10. Dave, the Cowboys are 7-point favorites. The over-under is 45.
I would never quit sports gambling.
Elliott, hit that cash money.
Some of your friends tell you there's no such thing as a sure thing, there's no locks, there's no guaranteed winners. Forget those people, you know what they are? They are losers.
People have been gambling on sports since the beginning of time. In fact, some argue it's the reason why many sports are still so popular today.
So I didn't know anything about gambling. And then when I retired, all my degenerate friends were like, hey, congrats, man. You're allowed to bet on games now.
Whether it's fantasy football or normal sports gambling, people put time and effort away from their family and friends to focus on the game.
People get addicted to gambling, whether they win or lose, because it's releasing that dopamine. And similar to how drug addicts have to like take more drugs to feel the same high, gambling addicts have to bet more money every time to get the same high. Regardless of if they're winning or losing, they still get the same high because they're partaking in a risky behavior.
As you can bet teams to win or to win by a certain number of points, you can also bet on certain players that have a certain amount of assists, goals, or other stats.
When I was gambling the most, I definitely would spend, 4 or 5 hours a day looking at sports, different stuff on sports. I mean, between watching the games and actually researching stuff, 5 to 6, 7 hours a day on days with games.
Either way, Vegas is rich for a reason. And the fact is, no matter that how many times people lose, everyone is still invested in sports for more reasons than one. The amount of time, energy, and stress that this takes up can affect a human in a million different ways. Whether you're happy because you made $50 in a week or depressed because you're down $250, the average gambler's week can be decided by a million different things.
It's actually kind of funny how often you end up down early and then you make your way back. And then that Monday night football game for the NFL before you're supposed to settle up on Tuesdays, you end up kind of going all in, double or nothing, and I feel like I hit it more times than not, so I end up coming out of it feeling really good about myself, but knowing that I really just came out even. So,
top 3 words I think of when I think of gambling is winning, me, and more winning.
Whenever a team will lose, fans will do this kind of coping mechanism. It's called cutting off reflected failure. And so that's very different than, say, a kid whose dad lost. He lives with that, and he feels his dad's emotions, and his investment in the team is a totally different ballpark than just a fan.
Most sports fans watch from the sideline as they support the team that they grew up a fan of. But for some fans, they have a direct tie to the team that they support.
My name's Connor Payton, and my dad is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Sean Payton.
Y2, green right off nasty. Hound 2, Y flew the X basic, backs right. Y2, green right off nasty. Hound 2, Y flew the X basic, backs right. I want. Good! Wide ass open. Good stuff.
People that might be involved due to a family member not only are rooting for their team to win, but also for the sake of their family.
I lived in over 12 houses growing up and moved and lived in 3 or 4 states, and just always, you never know, because where you live in is depending if you win or lose football games. So you're always you think about that when the games are on. So it's definitely a little added stress behind the game, and you're also a fan, so it's both. I've been around for losing seasons and read all the reports that your dad should be fired and all this stuff, and so that's tough. But then I've been around for the good times when they won the Super Bowl and last 2 years where they've had good playoff success. So I think it's different just from that perspective. Just being around the same team since '06, it's just you've been through it all.
The pressure and stress could be way worse, even though this was not their choice.
It's a business that you signed up to be criticized in, and when the contracts are that big and when you're in that much of a spotlight and when you're making those kind of calls that try to win you or lose you games, it's hard because some of the criticism's uncalled for, but some of it's fair. I think that's just the business of the game.
No matter how close your ties are to a team or how much money you've lost, sports fans will always be sports fans. Sports fans will always love and hate to every single extreme. It might be for different reasons, but they will never fail to disappoint.
Oh my God! Oh, thank you, Lord!
In the video, just saves the link. Just memorize the link to my flash drive. So when I put my flash drive in,
love the content. Behind the scenes footage, stuff the fans don't see. Incredible. Yeah. Probably not.